Good morning and welcome to the next episode of Make More Money Now. And today, Patti has the main stage with part 3. She's going to be talking today about how to get your prospecting skills to where they need to be so that you can make more money. So, Patti, over to you.
Thank you, Gerry, and good morning, everyone. I'm just going to start sharing my screen right here and go straight into this is the part 3 of finding new clients. It is quite a process, right? I mean, we started with calling your past clients, getting some referrals, putting together a list, and today we're going to go, okay, now what? Okay. Oops. Oh god. There we go. So this is where we left off in part 2. It's like, what research have you done about the client? So before you pick up that phone, is have a minute or two to yourself to find out what's your intention for this call. Okay, why are you calling, and what's a win for this call? Like, it could be just that you get confirmation that you are going to have a longer call, or you always have to be ready to leave a voicemail, for example. But it's like, what's the reason for your call? Have you done your research on the company and the person? I will always Google that person, look at their LinkedIn profile, and see where the commonality is. Some people will put some personal information on their LinkedIn profile, so you're going to go, oh, you went to Ryerson too, or oh, you were born in Montreal and went to McGill, and how are you adjusting to life in Toronto or California or whatever. And one of my big rules is never ask what you can Google, right? So you don't ask, so what university to go to? Don't ask that, because it's on their LinkedIn profile. You bore people. So, and they know it. They know what's on their LinkedIn profile. They know what their public information is. You might want to go and Google their company and say, oh, what's news? What are trigger events? Hey, I heard your company's taken over somebody, or you merged, or this is happening, or you just got a big order. Yay, congratulations. So again, always prep yourself before the call, and have some current information, the news, because you want to show that you're not just calling a name on a long list about just you're banging out the numbers. Like, that's not where you want to go. If you're in the business to business service industry, selling major contracts, is that you don't want to have 100 people on your list and you just bang out the numbers. It's not the quantity, it's the quality. And for quality to happen, you have to do your research.
And Patti, just before you continue, let me just mention something to that point. Clients can tell, prospects can tell when they're just one on a long list. They are going to sense that. And where you see that happen too a lot is you see people complaining on LinkedIn being part of a mass reach out. They can sense that. So if it's not personalized and you haven't done your homework, you're going to get found out and they're going to turn off right at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, I've had people say, so what do you think my company does? And if you don't know, you just kind of go, well, Acme Industries, you do industries.
Do what the other guys do, don't you?
Yeah, right.
You don't know what you do?
but somebody gave me this number name. That's why there's the low touch, the sort of the long list of 100 dials really is not effective, because in this day and age, again, people have a buying journey and you're part of that. It's not like you're not doing the outreach because they don't have access to information, because they have all the information they need at their fingertips. So you have to be prepped of like, what's the background, but don't go overboard, right? Don't spend half an hour researching one call, because I mean, you can only do like 3-4 calls in the morning. So that doesn't work either. So it's got to be a nice balance, 5 minutes or so, maybe set a timer if you tend to be like me and get lost in the depths. I love the research, but you got to be prepped for your opening. And with a name like mine, Pokorchak, is I tend to just drop that, because it's just like, it gets too confusing, because my company name is fairly long. So it's, hi, it's Patti, small biz sales coach. Reason for my call is, my friend Gerry says, possibly that you could use some help in increasing your sales. Is that right? And I always like I mean, that might be a little bit, hey, your sales is lagging. That might be a little derogatory in a way, but you want to kind of figure out, okay, that's why you need to practice, right? Because that's like, hey, my friend Gerry said you're having some challenges in, your sales team's not performing. I'm wondering how I can help. Tell me more about, your situation. And I love it's you keep it short, snappy, and ask a question. That's the whole thing. You want to, if it's a truly cold outreach or warm outreach, is that for example, I have a huge background in technology, and I did tech sales and especially software sales for years. And it's like, hey, you're a startup, you just got $10 million handed to you. You're probably going and hiring, a sales VP and starting a sales team. How can I help you, with my expertise? This is what I've done. So you want to have like, hey, this is my credentials, but that's why I have to practice, because it's got to come out really, really quick and punchy and from the heart. You can't read it. I'm sure Gerry will agree. You got a script and you're reading it. It's just like having the teleprompter, right? It's just, that doesn't really work. I know they're going to throw this to you, Gerry. What kind of openings do you do? Do you know? Sometimes I just go, hey, it's Patti, and my friend Gerry said to call. Our common friend Gerry said to call, and I'll just skip some of the intro. What do you?
Well, one of the things that I like to do, I like to bring in, because we know what we do, right? We know the value we deliver. I always like to include my previous clients in the conversation. And the way I do it is, one of the things I hear all the time, Patti, from clients that I've worked with, is they have a real challenge when it comes to this, whatever this happens to be.
Okay.
And then that sort of does a couple of things. It sort of eases you into the conversation, and your next question is going to be, is that a problem at your company, or you find that to be a challenge? So you've made them part of a group. You've also you've just made them sort of not think that they're giving away trade secrets. It's a common problem, so it's easy for them to say, you know what, we could probably be a bit better at that. So that's what I like to do, is use clients that bring them in along for the ride. I do that on the writing side as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, where, hey, you're not special. You're not like, special in air quotes. Other entrepreneurs like you have this common problem. Are you part of that group? And it's a yes or no. And then you have to, what I always like are the who, what, why. So why do you believe that you're part of that? Like tell me more about your situation. Then you want to open it up to an open-ended question where you get them talking, right? So you kind of got, I call it the nodding dog. It's like you want them to say, hey, yeah, I'm in that group.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And then it's like, okay, so tell me more about that. So having some of these sort of generic kind of, tell me more about that, and how did that happen, and how did that feel with the team, or how did that make your company react? The one thing you should never do if you've never spoken to somebody is, do not say, so how are ya? How are ya? I absolutely detest that, because you might think it's polite, but it's not. It's a total waste of time, unless you've talked to that person before. It's like, hey, Gerry, how are you doing this week? What's new? It's Tuesday. Well, how was your Monday? That's different. That's kind of the chit chat that you open up with. But you've never talked to me before, you really don't care how I am. You're not even listening. I could say, stage 4 cancer, and you would go, oh, really? How nice? Because you're not listening. You're really not listening.
That sounds like a joke, but it does happen.
Oh, I know. I remember being guilty of that myself, where a friend of mine texted me and messaged me, and he says, how are you? I said, fine, because that's and I was sobbing tears. It's just, but the first reaction, I'm fine. And I went, no, I'm not fine. I need a friend right now, but it's our automatic reaction to say, yeah, we're fine. It's like, no, we're not fine. So never start with, how are you? You might say, probably caught you at a bad time, but I only want 2 seconds 20 seconds of your time, just to see if there's any interest. Like, that's something, you can usually tell by their tone of voice, and that's why you need to be a little spontaneous. And somebody goes, Pokorchak, You kind of know you got your 2 seconds. You don't have 2 minutes, you got 2 seconds. And you go, reason for my call is this, interested? Yes or no? And it's like, and that's where you got to hit them right between the eyes. And that's where part of being an expert sales professional is being like a chameleon, reacting to the whatever signals you have, which is tone of voice, what their speech is like. If somebody, if you call up and you go, Patti speaking, how can I help you? It's like, Patti, I can't, thanks for taking my call. I'm not sure if you're the right person, but if you could help me find the right person, which I think you've got something there to add, Gerry, about what you did yesterday.
Yeah, I'll get to that in 1 second, but I just wanted to mention to that point that another approach that I've used in the past quite successfully is I will state the reason for the call, and then I will ask the person I'm talking to, who 80% of the time I know I'm speaking to the right person, but I will say, here's what I do, blah, 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 blah. Do you know who in the company looks after that kind of thing?
Yeah.
So you've had a chance to kind of state the reason for the call, and the person actually has time to process whether or not they want to continue. So they may, I just find that has worked in the past. Sort of getting a chance to have the floor for that brief benefit statement, and then allowing them some wiggle room. Well, I'll check into it, or I don't, or I'm not interested. They might say that. They might say, yeah, that's me, I'm not interested. But you got yourself a chance to hop on the stage and position that benefit to them for them to assess it.
Yeah, and you might also get the response, oh yeah, but we already use XY company for that. And it's like, oh, and then again, you have to gauge, can you ask, are you very happy with them? What do they do that you don't like? Where could they be better? Like you might just maybe make a note to call them in 3 to 6 months to follow up. And maybe you, like in the summer, you catch them at a better time where they're more open. Maybe the contract is coming up for renewal and there's a little opportunity there. So it's just, again, something you put in your CRM system and you go, okay, today's not the day to call that person, but let's follow up in 6 weeks or so, just to say, hey, I know you're using somebody else. Could you tell me, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how satisfied are you? If you're a 10, that's great. I'm really happy for you. I'm glad you found somebody to help you. But if you're like a 5 or 6, maybe we could chat, there's a gap there. So something's not happening right. So let's set up a time when, it's more convenient for you. So it's really, really reacting. And again, I will always, just so I don't get stale as a sales rep. I am making 10 or 20 calls a day, or I used to when I was a full-time sales rep. It's like, don't have this one scripted way of opening up the call, because you will get bored. You will sound scripted even if there's no script in front of you. Do you agree with that, Gerry? Like you just kind of have different ways of, because people react to different openings too, right?
Yeah, and you have to keep yourself, like to your point, you have to keep yourself fresh, and you have to keep yourself energized. I mean, the energy and enthusiasm on the call, people appreciate that. They pick up on that, and so it's really important that if you're not in the mood to make the calls, I'm not saying we all run the phone and make them, but if you're particularly not, or if you've made, let's say, maybe you've been calling for a couple of hours and talked to 3 or 4 people, you need to take a little break, because you are mentally, it's challenging both mentally and physically to stay on your game. But that enthusiasm and the energy is a must. Just to what you mentioned earlier about a call I made yesterday, I'm trying to strike up a relationship with this company, sort of a joint venture strategic relationship company. So as Patti said earlier, I've done a lot of research. I know some of the challenges that they're having. So basically, I called and got the decision maker's name. Not from the decision maker. I got it from somebody in the front office who volunteered it. She just said, oh, you have to talk to Tom. He's the owner. Okay, that's fine. So then I file that piece of information. Then what I did was, based on knowing what I know about this particular prospect, I basically sent an email to kind of pave the way a little bit to give him a heads up of why I'm calling. So in that email, what I'm doing is sort of painting a picture as to how I think I can add value to his company. So he can see that. He doesn't have to listen to me on the phone at that point. I've kind of paved the way. And I was very careful to make sure to take what I knew. And as Patti said earlier, you can get a lot of information from websites, from understanding what's going on in the industry. And then you weave that into an email, if that's easier for you than doing a straight call. But ultimately, you're still going to make that call. But when you make it, that person is now deciding on whether or not to take your call based on the information you've already sent. That can sometimes work for you. So I did not hear back from him, but I'm working on an email system that tells me I know he read the email. Now, right away, there's a tendency to think, oh, he's not interested. No, you can't draw that conclusion because he's busy. You've come out of the blue. Who knows what's going on? And he may want to check me out. I'd let the website be available, made sure he had all of that information. So I could get a call from him in the next day or two. If I don't, I will phone him and he's either going to take my call or he's not. If he takes it, that's a really good sign. But that's another way, that I will use periodically, to get in touch with new prospects.
Right.
So we'll see. I'll report on it the next show we do. I'll let you know how it turned out.
Yeah, and here's just some sort of generic phrases of how to open it up. And sort of my past clients have achieved this. I like sort of leading with results, I guess, is like, if you're interested in doubling your sales from, 50,000 to 100, that's a typical result from my clients that I coach in sales and marketing. But here again, just some, did you know, you want to lead with the insights of, hey, are you aware that, if I'm talking to a VP of sales, do you realize that the sales leadership has changed from a managerial to a coaching role? Coaching is so much more effective than managing. And that's what, the millennials that you have in your team, they don't want to be managed. They want to be coached and grow and learn, and left to their own devices. They want to be measured on results. So you can no longer micromanage them because they won't be there. They'll be gone. So again, here's some sort of, does it seem like to you that this is always happening? If I'm talking to like a solopreneur, it's like, do you realize, or does it seem like you get these leads and then they just disappear and they never call you back? You ever wonder why and what you can do about it to revise it and how to get them back? What I was looking at, Gerry, is that, so you've got this thing planned. So there, I think the stress is that there's no right or wrong. Do you call first? Do you send an email in advance? Do you leave a voice? Like I was talking to somebody yesterday who leaves a voicemail first and then follows up 3 days later with an email, which is exactly different what you're doing. There is no right or wrong. There whatever works for you. I find a lot of entrepreneurs, they have this dread of the phone. So they'll do the passive outreach with the email and just leave it at that. One outreach and go, oh, I did it, I did my prospecting for today. And that is like just not, doesn't work in this day and age. If you're looking, you know who your ideal target market is, because you've helped 10 other associations get more revenue in by these breakout these workshops that you do. So for sure you could help this other association. So it's up to you to be a little persistent and go, okay, I help this, and that's what I'm saying is you need 5 different messages again and the complimentary emails to go with it, that hey, I did this, and you leave a voicemail with something short, snappy, and excited, like, hey, I can really help you, get non-dues revenue. Talking to an association, that's like key to them. It's like crack. It was like, oh yeah, I want non-dues revenue, and this is how I can do it. And then you send an email that has, hey, let's talk. Let's set up a time to talk about non-dues revenue, how we can work together, revenue split, and so there's no risk for you. So I guess, Gerry, the thing is that you're going to call this potential client in a couple of days. well, assuming you get his voicemail, what would you say then? Like, what was your,
Well, I think what I might be tempted to do initially would be to kind of reiterate some of the things. I called the other day. A lot of these people are quite busy, right? So you want to make sure that you identify yourself clearly. That's number one.
yeah,
And I would try and add in some different information this time, like maybe, I don't know what it would be offhand in this particular case, but there could be something that's happened or something I've learned in the last 3 days about this company. So I may add something else in. But what I would want to be doing, Patty, is showing them I'm willing to work for some of your time. And
right,
that's what following up in kind of consistent and different ways does, is it demonstrates to the person, this guy's not going to go away and he's not being annoying. So that's the big difference, that I'm giving each time I'm talking to him or leaving a message. I'm coming there with my hand out with something that might be useful for him. Now, ultimately, it may not lead anywhere, and that's fine. But that's what the whole process is about. The key is to keep showing up and showing up in an interesting way and demonstrate that you have value. And like I said, there may or may not be a need, but if there is a need, this person is going to know after 3 or 4 contacts
yeah,
that, it might be worth 5 minutes to talk to me, or whatever,
exactly,
as
exactly.
opposed to the person who just says, hey, give me a call, and that's, they leave their number. Well, you're not going to call. I know there's a famous story. I don't know who it is, but there's a famous story about a CEO, and it might have been Jack Welch, who said that he, unless somebody calls him, it leaves him a voicemail 5 times, he doesn't call them back. He figures if you're not willing to keep calling, then so there are while you may not be talking to me, it doesn't mean I'm not learning. I'm talking about being a prospect
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
I'm assessing the situation. I think that's kind
Yeah,
of.
they want to see how, like you say, you have to earn their business and their respect. It's like you're this newcomer. It's like, okay, I mean, I get these SEO emails every day. It's like, and they're so unprofessional. It's just like I would not even ever look at them. They don't even have a website to check out their portfolio. So it's like how. And like you're saying, is you got to add some value each time. So you're like you say, you're giving, but you're saying, hey, clients that I work with, they tend to achieve, 20, 50%, sales increase. Interested? Call me. It's just the next time is like what I find most entrepreneurs never had any formal sales training. And that is a huge, huge fatal flaw because it is a profession. So it's just like, okay, what else can you say? And it's just like, hey, I teach at Ryerson and in entrepreneurs, and they go from, feeling like a 2 to a 10 in confidence. When you're more confident, you sell more. So I can help you with that. It's just like, and that's why you need to have short, snappy emails or emails and voicemails, because you want to say, hey, I can help you. And it's a sense of urgency of like, I want to help you now. I got to pay my bills now. Okay. That's my inside voice. Sorry. That wasn't, that was, but you want new clients now, and it's just like, because a lot of what we sell are sort of nice to haves, or it would be good. And it's just like, okay, but you got to get them over that stumbling block because it's always something, but so again, the message is, but they have to add some value, something new and exciting. Like you say, do your research. Hey, I just saw you landed a great new client. It's like, oh, you're stalking me, in a nice way, which is very easy to do with Google Alerts or watching what they post on LinkedIn. Because on LinkedIn, you can either connect, which they might ignore, or you can follow them. And following is kind of, and then follow and comment on their post is the highest flattery. So here you are with 3 touch points where, you phone them, you sent them an email, and then you're on their LinkedIn post and you're commenting. Ooh, interesting. So again, with those 5 different voicemail messages, you need 5 different emails, and keep them short and snappy, because it's just like, Again, did you know, or past clients have had these results working with me? Want to know more? Just send me reply S or yes to this email, and I'll send it to you. It can be an offer of a white paper, a checklist, something that's non-threatening. I tend to ask for a meeting basically in the next stage. But again, as soon as you leave the voicemail, make sure that email is ready to go. And that's a cut and paste, fairly generic, but it's just, again, short, simple, just reinforcing your voicemail, because they go, oh, is that Patti girl? Yeah. But then they get the email. It's like, okay, what has she got now? And they'll be tempted, again, the subject line is very important, but they'll be tempted to go, she left me a voicemail. I'm not going to email. There's a link I can click, I can check her out. So this is just because it's the limitations of PowerPoint. It's not really one I would send out, but just as a, hi, first name, did you know, get them, ask them a question. At the end, if you want to just put your hand up, that's, the win in this is just, they're going, hey, let's take this a bit further. So now, shock of all shocks, 1 in 20 time probably, when you call, you might get a real person on the line. So be prepared for that. It's like, okay, because it's going to be out of the ordinary, unless you're calling a realtor, because they always answer their phones from strangers. But I'm not sure about how many other industries you'll get lucky with that. I did a project a couple of years ago, and it was selling to realtors an exclusive package called In the Know Local. And I took Oakville as my test city, because it's exclusive to one city, to one realtor. I got a short list of 10 realtors, and then I did my research. I had a short list of 3, and I went, hey, I want to work with her. And it was, the process does work, and lucky. I mean, realtors, yeah, they answer their phone, but they are tough negotiators, right? It's hard to sell to salespeople. It can be easy to sell to salespeople, but it can be super tough in my dealings with realtors in the past. But this one was a relatively easy, fast and easy $6,000 sale, which was, for something that never been sold before, never been done before. So it shows that this process works. You just got to follow the process, do your research, and then be a little persistent of, voicemail, email, voicemail, or calling them. So when you have a live person, it's like, okay, you were practiced, you're ready for this. And again, you might have, a cheat sheet in front of you, but hi, Gerry. Oh, I'm so glad I got you. Patti, small biz sales coach. The reason for my call today is our friend John Smith told me that you have some challenges in your business. Want to tell me about them? I mean, it's I know I tend to be pretty direct at times, and again, that's why you need to be rehearsed and go, okay, what can I say that's not going to insult you, and say, hey, I heard you got real problems in your business, like that. You don't want to do that. But it's just, you got to be rehearsed and say, hey, I work with lots of entrepreneurs like yours, and what I find is that they haven't had a formal sale or any sales training, and they struggle, and their sales plateaued. Just curious, Gerry, have you had sales training? Ask the question, shut up, and see. No. Well, what I find is when people work with me is they can get fast results, because sometimes it's just a little tweak, like, knowing to ask for the order, and something as simple as, do you think I can help you? And then shutting up. It's not, I don't teach tricks, I teach techniques. But would you like to have a longer conversation of how, if you tell me more about your personal situation and where your company's at and your challenges, and I can see if I can help you. What do you think?
One of the things I find, Patti, too, is that when you're calling somebody, like let's say somebody visits your website, or you're calling out to them, like, people move through the day with problems in their life that are top of mind. That could be business problems, could be personal problems, but it's not like they don't know what those problems are, and unless they're resolved, they're always top of mind with it. So the point of that is to understand, when you call somebody, be sure to tell them what problem you are adept at solving. because that really cuts to the quick of whether or not they have any interest. Now, you should know when you're calling somebody, the chances are that maybe 50% of the time they could have that problem. So if it's a company that's just been taken over, maybe it's going to be the employees are worried about what's going to happen. You know, whatever it is you sell, understand the problem you solve so that when you call someone up and you get them live, I can say, hey, Patti, Gerry Black here. I'm a copywriter. That doesn't mean a thing to you. But what may be of interest is I know with a lot of my clients, they find they don't get anywhere near the response they want from their website. Now, I know that for him, that's likely going to be the case. He may get a lot of people visiting it, but it's likely, but just by having looked at the website beforehand, I will know they're not getting anywhere near the conversions that they should. So I know that. So
Yeah.
I say to him something that he knows.
Yeah.
You know, I work with a lot of small business owners, entrepreneurs, whatever it happens to be, and they just don't get anywhere near the response. They have trouble converting. Is that a problem at your company?
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom. The guy can go, like, if the guy's got that problem, he is going to be thinking, tell me a bit more.
Yeah.
You know, because I've basically demonstrated I know what's likely going on there, and I've made it very clear. I don't say, like, you know, I sell women's dresses, I fix cars and all that stuff. I say, here's what I do. I help you convert more prospects from your website into qualified prospects that you can keep marketing to. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand what I do and if he needs that. I find that's effective.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and in my case, it's like, you don't or I rarely meet people with too many sales, right? There's what the problem is, like, oh no, we've got more than enough sales, we don't need any help with that. I don't think that's ever happened. You know, I always say as a sales leader is like, yeah, give me that problem. You know, when somebody says, oh, what if we get so many bookings, we're overbooked, it's like, yeah, we'll deal with that problem should it
Yeah.
ever happen. And funny enough, in my whole career as a sales VP, sales leader, no, it's never happened. You know, it's like we can manage. Well, you know, I sometimes have a wait list of clients, you know, which is really my goal is to not have everybody start so that I'm overloaded, because that doesn't work for either of us. So I mean, having a wait list and saying, hey, I can't deal with you right now, but I got a client who's finishing next month, so you know, that's you get in line, you know, because you're not going to solve, you know, it's not life or death problems that we solve. I mean, they're long term, they can be fatal if you're not getting the traffic, if you're not converting the leads into sales. That is a fatal flaw, but I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. If you lasted 5 or 10 years, you're going to last another few months with, you know, with or without our help. And we're just going to help you get better. And again, it's about really having that you know, conversation with people, really listening. You know, I'm going to bring out my elephant and go, yeah, really listen, because your next questions can't be scripted. It's like, oh, Gerry, so you've worked with other copywriters before. Okay. Oh, a student. Oh, you used a summer student. Oh, okay, fine. But you know, you got to start somewhere. You
And
know,
that's what you're looking for, is what's the hook that is going to break their concentration from what they were doing when you called, and what's going to get them talking. That's really your objective in the front end, is to get them to engage with you. And once that happens, if you articulate the problem you solve, and then you're off to the races. It really can be an unscripted, I find, an unscripted conversation from there. You have to follow the signals that they send you. But really, that first call, you're trying to make sure they understand how you can make a difference in their business. That's the
That's
key.
right. And I think you and I both sort of generate instant trust, is that we've got the street cred, we've got the decades of experience. We come across not as, you know, some flaky 20 something who, you know, had one success and say, oh, I can now teach you how to be a successful entrepreneur because I just sold 100 grand of those, you know, cocktails. I got lucky. Okay. That, you know, you do that once, fine. You know, that could be a fluke, right? Do it twice and do it for 5 years. Like then show that's the kind of street credibility, you know, that, you know, I'm a proud co-founder of a software business now in its 30th year. We got that off the ground, bootstrapped with zero capital. That from that experience, you know, then I could become a farmer and start a garden center with, you know, again, zero experience and zero, but I became an expert in gardening. You know, I have an Amazon #1 best giveaway book on container gardening. Who
Nice.
knew? Yeah. But anyways, I think we've given them lots of meat to think about how you need to practice. You need to have different value statements that you give in, you know, by voice, by email. You know, be prepared. So I think we've done a pretty good job here, Gerry, of helping people get to the next stage. Because really, I'll be announcing this probably the next week or the next time I've got the lead, is a group coaching program. Because what happens now is that now you've got a little bit of knowledge. You're a little dangerous. Remember I said you need somebody to practice with and give you feedback. And so I'll be launching a group coaching program to help you get more clients now, because it means you need to practice with somebody who's knowledgeable and help you tweak those statements that you do. So, but I think this is the end of, you know, live prospecting my clients. So anyway, stay tuned. Next week, Gerry's up again with some great marketing tips. So anyways, have a great week.
We'll see you all next week.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.